Welcome to the boys YouTube channel. Welcome one and all. It is Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. Welcome to the playoffs. It is the BTB Roundtable. You can watch us live on the Blog and the Boys YouTube channel. You can obviously catch it at your own perusal, at your own time, your own convenience. That would be lame, though. We appreciate the live in-studio audience in a metaphorical sense, of course, that joins us. You can also listen to the show on the Blog and the Boys podcast network, wherever you get your podcasts. We have a full house. That is one sitcom that we are not. We are actually the Brady Bunch here tonight, as you can see if you are watching us live. We're going to go in clockwise order. I guess. My name is RJ Ochoa. So starting at our top left quadrant, you hear him on 1st and 10. You hear and see. I'm not going to do this every time. You hear and see and read all these people all over the place, all throughout the Blog and the Boys universe. Tony Catalina. Everyone has worn a Navy jersey tonight because we were told earlier today the Cowboys going to be wearing Navy on Monday night against the Buccaneers. Tony Catalina, who is your Navy Dallas Cowboys jersey?
QB1 Dak Prescott, baby.
It should be noted that Tony was not the first person here to wear that jersey. So even though he went first in the order, he doesn't get credit for that. Up next, Brandon, Loree. We're going to go with Loree. The B1, B2 stuff is very confusing. So I'm going to go Loree from here on out. Loree, tell us who your Navy jersey is and why it is a schmedium fit on you.
It is a Tony Romo jersey, and it was the first jersey I ever bought myself as a kid. So it's a throwback in my mind.
Well done. AJ, by the way, says that we need a group pic on Twitter. So if somebody can handle a screenshot or a picture on their phone, that would be great. We can get on Twitter, Instagram. We have a lot of people who have presences in all sorts of places here. Jess Nevarez, thank you for joining us tonight. You were the first to arrive in a Navy Dak Prescott jersey, so you did beat Tony Catalina. It was not a photo finish. You smoked him here.
I was. I showed up first. That's why you have to be early, Tony. You gotta be early. But you know what? Kudos to you for being twins with me tonight. I love it. I love the Dak support tonight. We need that, and I appreciate it.
By the way, an apology to Samuel Rowe, who offered an excuse on my behalf, Jess, for not letting you go first as a matter of ladies first. So some chivalry here in the comment section. David Howman is here to defend his many BTB crowns. Howman, which Navy jersey are you wearing this evening?
Well, I know everybody thought it was Stephen McGee, but it's actually Trayvon Diggs.
Wow. You know, good times. At one point in time, that was a Cooper Rush jersey, to be fair, as well. So, you know, a lot of options there before he was out. Trayvon took it, and then number 10 became incredible. Brandon Clements, we're going to go by Brandon. Again, we're not going to rehash this whole situation. You were on today's episode of the Writer's Block with Loree and Jess. A fantastic episode. What jersey do you have for us this particular evening?
I'm wearing the 21, but it's not Ezekiel Elliott. It's actually my custom jersey with my name on it.
Oh, that's right. We've seen this before. You know, hey, Sturch, that's all be cool. By the way, Dave Sturchio's here, everybody. Danny Phantom is here. If you're watching, he has taken advantage of the technology that we live with now, where he has changed his background, as Tony Catalina has as well. Danny, what where did you take this from? What Google image is this, and what Navy jersey are you wearing tonight?
I have no idea where I took it from. I'm wearing. It's all about the Dak, so I got Dak going. And you know, I'm pretty sure Howman's. That's a DiNucci. Make him turn around.
You know, 17 looked much better on DiNucci. It never made sense for him to rock 7. Just kind of feels nice, or felt nice for him to be wearing number 7. Dave Sturchio, you heard his beautiful baritone voice. Sturch, you were wearing number 24. I asked you if it was Mo Claiborne. It is not.
It is a Marion the Barbarian Barber jersey. It was one of my favorite Cowboys of all time.
The late, great Marion Barber, certainly somebody who we all have very, very special and fond memories of. Sturch, thank you for joining us here tonight. Finally, Chris Halling. I did an Instagram live with him on Monday, so everybody heard how, Chris, I'm just going to say it, how doom and gloom and Chicken Little you were about this whole situation the Cowboys find themselves in. What Navy jersey are you wearing this evening, Chris?
I'm wearing the best running back of all time, Emmitt Smith. You know, I predict that the Cowboys are going to end up beating the San Francisco 49ers, and then they're going to beat the Bills in the Super Bowl, and Emmitt Smith did that in winning the Super Bowl MVP that year. So I'm hoping that kind of brings that into fruition.
Very different tune than I heard on Instagram Live on Monday afternoon. I'm happy to see that some time has kind of changed the way we're feeling. Okay, we have some points to hand out here. First of all, Shane has awarded 20 points for Dave and Jess. So opposite quadrants here. I guess this is the way if I'm doing it. It's very difficult. I've never had to manage this much action here on the roundtable. Kevin asks what diet drink I am drinking. I have a Diet Coke from Chick-fil-A, so everyone is aware. Kevin has awarded everybody 5 points for the Cowboys gear today. Nobody with green. You gals and guys are learning. LOL. David Sturch has given you 5 points for the Marion Barber jersey, as has AJ. Absolute Beast AB Wear says Sturch without the H. My favorite Jersey boy of all time. The Jersey Boys, a very we'll say infamous group in a lot of different ways, certainly around the Blog of the Boys sector. Kevin has given you, Chris, 5 points because Emmett is the GOAT. All right, tonight we have a very interesting game at hand. Of course, the roundtable is up for grabs. There is going to be a winner. As always, it is a very fair and democratic process. Would you agree, Tony Catalina?
Yeah, it's always fair. You're always doing a good job.
That's right. Loree, are you concerned as we get ready to dive in here about the Cowboys wearing Navy? Do you believe in the Navy curses? They are 1-6 all time in playoff games when wearing blue.
Nah, you know what? Listen, the red stripe was banished this year. I think the Navy's time to go too.
I got to say, it's going to look good. I wasn't as pumped for this, but this right here, this moment, this picture looks incredible. Everybody did it. I asked everyone to wear a Navy jersey. I didn't even know if everybody had a Navy jersey. Danny, I think you went and bought it today. Is that true?
That is not true. I actually bought this one in Oxnard a year ago. But I love the Navy jersey. They are my favorite. So although I tell you what, the Arctic whites was pretty nice. I love those as well. But no, the Navy curse thing never meant anything to me. I love the Navy's. Happy they're wearing the Navies.
Okay. Well, we are going to play a game tonight, as mentioned. Now we've gotten all the stupid stuff out of the way. Howman, you said that this sounded like a season of Survivor. Tonight's game, faith or fear. I have asked each of you to come up with something that you are faithful about regarding the Cowboys or fearful about. It was up to you. You could have taken any direction, either side of the fork in the road, David Howman. Some of you chose faith. Some of you chose fear. I didn't specify this, but I think it was implied. I wanted it to be like your most powerful emotion, the thing you're feeling the most right now. If that's a sense of fear, then that bums me out. If it's a sense of faith, then hey, that's awesome. David Howman, do you feel like this is a season of Survivor? If so, what color would the tribe bandana be?
Well, I mean, this is easy. The color of the tribe bandana is going to be navy blue. And I feel like it's a season of Survivor because we're all trying to outwit everybody. We're all trying to out-scheme each other and come away with most points in the end.
Well said. All right. So, by the way, AJ says that faith overcomes fear, RJ. Maybe that's the spirit of tonight's show. I know Christmas is over and everything like that. Maybe we have some kind of kumbaya moments here. 5 of our roundtablers chose the side of faith. 3 chose the side of fear. Nobody knows what anybody said. Nobody knows what side anybody took. I hold all the answers. Chris, who do you think chose fear? The 3 people. You are muted, Chris. That's okay. We're gonna make it through. We can survive this.
I'm gonna go with Danny. I'm gonna go with Brandon, Loree, and I'm gonna go with Tony. Those are my 3 predictions.
Those are your 3 predictions. All right. Well, we are going to start as I get ready here. I wasn't prepared for this. You guys spoke too quickly. I wasn't anticipating this happening, so I'm just buying myself some time. All right. The first fear of the night, the Tom Brady factor. Brandon Clements, this was not yours. Who do you think chose this as their number 1 emotion that they're feeling right now?
I'm gonna go with Howman.
You're going to go with Howman. Well, that is 5 points to Brandon Clements because it was David Howman. Howman, you actually messaged me. You said, I ain't afraid of no ghost, but Tom Brady's not a ghost. Those were Howman's words. I didn't say that cheesy thing, everybody. Howman, so why are you afraid of Tom Brady? Why is that the number 1 thing you fear? The Cowboys have Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence and Leighton Vander Esch posted on Instagram. It looks like he's coming back, but you're losing sleep this week because of Tom Brady.
Well, the Cowboys have never beat Tom Brady ever. I mean, that's really it. He's 7-0 against the Cowboys, 2 different teams, and I know the Buccaneers have been, pretty bad, especially down the stretch. But Tom Brady in the playoffs, it's still Tom Brady, and he always finds a way to win these games. It's when it gets to the playoffs that's when he really turns things on. And I'm just looking. I mean, not only are the Cowboys trying to win their first road playoff game this century, but they're also trying to do it against Tom Brady, who they've never beat before, even with their best teams. And I just don't see it happening. That's a whole lot of historical trends you have to overcome in Tampa, especially coming off the letdown performance against Washington. It just scares me.
Jess, absolute beast, AB Ware says Tom Brady can tear apart our secondary. You, Loree, and Brandon talked about the state of the secondary. You said you were more concerned about the state of the secondary than the state of the wide receiver group. Do you share this sentiment with David Howman?
Look, I I know Tom Brady can Tom Brady, but this is not the same Tom Brady you are used to seeing. I mean, this is the first time in his career he's going into the playoffs with a losing record. And I get it. You give Tom Brady a 2-minute drill. He can Tom Brady. I understand the fear. However, I really don't think that Tom Brady is prepared for what this Dallas defense can do when they get their communication back, everything's set in stone, and you're no longer seeing the rotation that Dan Quinn has been doing to figure out that secondary position.
Sturch, David Smith says no fear, but I do have faith that TB12 will beat us. So first of all, Sturch, did you ever have an article of clothing from No Fear in the early 2000s? And second of all, do you believe that Tom Brady is somebody that should be feared?
No, I never owned one of those pieces of clothing, but I know the eyes. Like that's like the eyes are part of that No Fear logo. No, I never had it. Might have it on my car at some point.
Good times in middle school for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was driving in high school, but I mean, if anybody's driving in middle school, it's another problem. But as far as the Tom Brady factor, I'm with Jess. It's not the same. It's not the same Tom Brady. I listen, there's been so many times, how many different scenarios that we all play in our heads, like, oh, we'll do this and then we have to go face this guy, and I don't want to face this guy, and I don't want to face it. This is what we draw, and this is what we have to deal with. But Tom Brady is not the same guy. He's a fossil. The game kicks off at 8:30, which is way past his bedtime. So I think that I think we're gonna be all right. I honestly do.
Tony, let's see here. I've lost the comment here for a moment, trying to find it. Johnny Boy says the past is the past. The playoffs are now. That fear helps no one. Steven says faith in Dak. Tony, again, you said you wore this jersey because QB1, Dak Prescott, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people are doubting the state of Dak. Do the Cowboys have the better quarterback in this game? Because I think if you tweeted that out, you'd get a lot of like, you know what I mean? But make the case.
I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, Tom Brady is 45 years old. He's not doing it the way he has in the past. And obviously there's a healthy amount of respect that comes with Tom Brady and what he can bring. But if you're talking about purely who's the better quarterback here and now, I think Dak Prescott is in the prime of his career. I mean, obviously there's been some things that he needs to work through, but as far as talent wise and as far as skill set and, you know, just being able to do the things that he can, I do believe there is an argument that we have the better quarterback trotting out in there on Monday night.
Danny Phantom, who has the better quarterback in this game? Do you agree with Tony that it is Dak Prescott?
Yes, mostly, but I do think that Brady, you know, he can elevate his play. It wouldn't surprise me if Brady was the better quarterback in this game. Dak's had a lot of variance, so to speak, in his play, and you know, so it could go either way. But I mean, definitely, I think Prescott overall, you know, has the better body of work in the most recent history. So yeah, Dak's the best quarterback, but I'm still fearful of Tom Brady. Howman is right to be fearful of Tom. And it's not just Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady, you know, dissecting Nashawn Wright and then figuring out, you know, the weaknesses in the Cowboys secondary, because he's going to do that. I mean, it's not a secret that the Cowboys won. They won 4 games, but to start the season, but they lost to the Bucks. He knows how to figure the Cowboys out. So I'm worried about Tom Brady.
First of all, Aisha Morrison in the comment section giving Jess Nevarez some love. Listen to the two of them. They're fantastic crew on Girls Talk, Boys Talk on DallasCowboys.com, all their properties. Chris, Kevin is a very loyal commenter out here. Very optimistic person. We almost called this fear or optimism, but faith or fear had a cooler sound. Kevin says -5 for anyone that says Dak and talking about who the better quarterback here is. And then Kevin even adds, so you guys think the interception machine, now we're calling Dak a machine, is the better quarterback. Chris Halling, who is the better quarterback today, Dak Prescott or Tom Brady?
The better quarterback today is Dak Prescott, but who would I rather have in a playoff game? I'd rather have Tom Brady. I don't care if I lose the Roundtable for that. I think the Cowboys would stand a better chance with their defense and with everyone around them if they had the best player of all time, you know? So I think Tom Brady isn't playing his best football right now, but if I had to rely on either of them to win one playoff game, I'm definitely taking the GOAT. So
who disagrees with that? And if anybody does. Tony, you were first on this exercise, but nothing else tonight. But go ahead, Tony.
I mean, I understand everything that Tom Brady has done, but I mean, in the past, it serves in his preparation, it serves in his experience, but his body of work this year is the only team in the playoffs that is under 500. I mean, they're a 4 seed and they limped into the playoffs. And don't forget that they were tied up with a bad Atlanta Falcons team before they pulled the plug on them. This is a very beatable football team. I understand that there are some things that Tom Brady's going to be able to do against this defense, but that's more of an indictment on the secondary than I think that is Tom Brady being overly skilled at 45 years old.
Brandon, Loree, Tony mentioned that the Buccaneers were tied with the Falcons last week when the Bucs were still kind of playing for the game. But a few weeks ago, and Chris and I talked about this on Instagram, the mighty Tom Brady, and again, nobody's doubting his career resume. He's the greatest player of all time, as Chris noted, but the mighty Tom Brady was tied with the Trace McSorley-led Arizona Cardinals at the end of regulation. I mean, that's an important data point in this entire discussion, is it not, Loree?
Yeah, no, it is. I think that Tom Brady is certainly the best player on the team. But again, the part can't always make up for the sum. I think the Bucs in general are just bad, and he's trying to will them to victory. And I will always take mobility, especially in the modern NFL that we live in right now. Brady is not mobile anymore, and the minute the pocket collapses, he collapses too. So I'll always take Dak, rolling out to the right, rolling out to the left. He's shown a little bit more mobility than Brady, of course, and I'll always take that, especially with the NFL that we live in right now.
Howman, this was your point, so we'll come back to you to wrap it up. What % of you is afraid of Tom Brady, for lack of a better word, based off of narrative, based off of history? I mean, is it 1%? I mean, is because that's a fair thing to say, like, it's the greatest player of all time. That's a terrifying thing in and of itself. But what % of your fear is based around the Tom Brady factor, as you so put it?
I'd probably say about 50%, because that really is it. I mean, he's not had a good year. The Buccaneers have not had a good year. But even when you go back and you look at the Buccaneers this season, I mean, just 2 weeks ago to win the division, Brady engineered another one of those patented comeback drives, and he did it against a really good Panthers defense that was fighting for their playoff lives. So you can still see those flashes where, like, he still does look like classic Tom Brady. And now that it's in the playoffs and it's really a winner go home scenario, I just feel like that's going to come out even more. But it really does largely just stem from the fact that for years now we've been saying, well, this is the year that Brady's going to fall off. He's not going to be good, and he never does. And it just feels too good to be true this year.
Okay, so Kevin says, what was the score when Brady played Dallas this year? I have forgotten. AJ, I don't know if it was sarcastic or not, but did answer the question. 19-3 was the score. Van says, week 1 was a long time ago. Samuel Rose says, Tom Brady wasn't washed week 1. Y'all are acting like he didn't beat the brakes off of us this season. I don't think anybody would say that Tom Brady and the Bucs beat the brakes off of the Cowboys, but that's neither here nor there. One of you has faith in the Cowboys, and your point is that these are not the same teams from that week 1 matchup. Dave Sturchio, this was not your point. Whose do you think it was?
I'm gonna go with Loree.
Holy crap, we are 2 for 2. This was Brandon Loree's point. He has faith in the Cowboys because they're not the same teams from week 1. Explain yourself, Loree.
Yeah, I really believe that these teams are not the same. You look at the body of work, like I talked about with Brady. You can't elevate the sum of its parts with just one person. You got to look at the entirety of the season. And the Cowboys have just been the better team. The Bucs offense specifically, which scared a lot of people coming into the season, they have not scored more than 30 points except for 2 times this season, and one of them being garbage time against the Kansas City Chiefs, which they weren't in that game to begin with. So PFF, for whatever it's worth, has an offensive grade about 72.4, which is ranked 19th, but the teams above them are the Browns, the Saints, Steelers, and Raiders. Not very good offenses. And the thing that I've always said is the biggest problem with Dallas and their defense is their rush defense. It's been better, but the Buccaneers are dead last in the league right now. They're averaging about 72 or 76.9, which is lower than the Rams, and Rams have just been, atrocious in that category. So I just look at, Brady, yes, connected with Mike Evans as well in the final game, when they actually were playing against the Panthers. But that was the first time he threw a touchdown pass to Evans since week 4. It's just nothing has been going right. Everything I've been hearing from the Buccaneers side with beat reporters is Byron Leftwich and Brady are at odds, and they've been at odds all season. And that is so far and away different from where we were week 1. And I think that for the Cowboys, they've corrected a lot of problems. Yes, this last game was atrocious, and I think we can all just move on from that. But that's not who the Cowboys are. And also, I look at the Cowboys have responded off of bad losses and exploded to win games. So I trust what this coaching staff has established. I trust that they're going to bounce back from this. And especially going on the road, I know it hasn't looked pretty, but in a playoff atmosphere, I'll put Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, all those guys on defense that don't get pressure up against this beaten up Bucs offensive line any day of the week.
Dave Sturchio, what in a positive sense is most different about the Cowboys from week 1 in your estimation? So in a positive way, where have they grown the most positively from what we saw in the season opener to where they are now, even counting last week's loss against the Commanders?
Reps. and facing adversity. I mean, they go in there in week 1 and it's like practically the preseason, man. I mean, they ever since they shortened that up, it takes a couple weeks to get your feet under you. And that's the one thing I can take from this is that they got the reps, they beat some good teams, they played down to some bad teams. It's just, the way the story kind of played out this year. But as far as that week 1 team, we're not even close to being that week 1 team, man. It is completely night and day.
Danny Phantom, where are the Cowboys most different in a negative sense? I mean, not that anything was good in that week 1 loss to the Buccaneers, but what did they have that they no longer have? And for the purposes of this question, you can kind of use the first, month to 6 weeks of the season, because the season opener is kind of a difficult thing.
That's tough.
I know. I'm not here to lob softballs, Danny. There's a roundtable crown up for grabs.
There's so many choices, really. I mean, because to me, I feel like it's a secondary in the sense just because it's without Anthony Brown, which, everyone has their own opinions about Anthony Brown. It's a step down with Nahshon Wright. Now, I think Wright's been playing really, really well, to be fair. But I think that he's very exploitable. And also, too, they're just one nicked up corner from having to have Kelvin Joseph, or, man, I don't even know what, Trayvon Mullins was doing last week. So it's an area of concern. And if you're going to see a lot of receivers and the Cowboys are going to have to force their safeties into coverage, Donovan Wilson, great player, not the best in coverage. There are some concerns that I have there. And I'll tell you what, if there's one person that knows how to dice that up, it's Tom Brady. So I think the secondary, and because of health, is an area where the Cowboys have shown some vulnerabilities.
Howman, Kevin says, so our offense is better than week 1, but our defense is not as good as week 1. We are paper thin at corner. Taking those generalities, do you feel like the Cowboys defense is not as good as it was in the season opener?
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I think part of that is just because over these last few weeks, you don't have Jonathan Hankins, you don't have Leighton Vander Esch. Those were 2 big pieces, and that's where you kind of see their defensive productivity starts kind of dropping off a bit, is when those 2 guys go out. Part of it is also the secondary, and they don't really know who's going to be that second corner opposite of Trayvon Diggs when they're in the nickel. Obviously, Deron Bland has played great, but they're looking for that other corner. But Leighton Vander Esch has been such a vital part of this defense. He's definitely proven me wrong from my comments earlier in the season. And when he goes down, when Jonathan Hankins goes down, the middle of that defense is just a little bit weaker, and it's weakened the whole defense. So getting those guys back for the playoffs, I think, will be a big step towards getting back to their dominance.
Chris, quick question from the crowd. Casey Hammond says, I'll put on my RJ hat and ask other question. Would you rather be down 4 with a minute to go and our offense on the field, or be protecting a 4-point lead with a minute to go in our defense? I'm going to say that this question is specifically with regards to Tom Brady and the Bucs, Chris.
Yeah, specifically with Tom Brady in mind, I would rather us be down 4 with a minute to go and having Dak drive down the field. I think Dak plays his best offense in a 2-minute drive situation anyway. So I think I'd feel better off in our offense getting that needed score than our secondary stopping Tom Brady from getting in the end zone.
All right. So we've talked offense, we've talked defense. Let's go to the other side of the ball. One of you has faith, saying special teams should bounce back after last week. Last week, pretty rough. Actually, straight up trash. Kevontae Turpin, trash. Brian Anger, trash. Throw it all away. Get it out the system. Be better this coming week. On grass, I know, blah, 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 blah. Tony Catalina, a lot of pressure here. We're 2 for 2. Who do you think has faith in the Cowboys because of special teams bouncing back after what we saw last week against Washington? Just so you know, Tony, it cannot be Brandon, Loree, and it cannot be David Howman.
I think it's Jess. She talks about special teams a lot, so I think it's Jess.
What a shock that Tony Catalina kind of ruined the party. Actually, the party got a little bit ruined because it was Brandon's, and he's out for the moment. So we'll see if Brandon comes back. Tony, not totally your fault. I'll take the fault off your shoulders for this one. We'll see if he makes it back. In the meantime, just horrible timing that Brandon having to leave at this moment. Tony,
do you think me dizzy with his back and forth with his camera and stuff? So.
Tony, do you think the Cowboys special teams improve? Do you think Kevontae Turpin finally houses one this week?
That would be a storybook type of situation. I think, at the beginning of the season, we felt really good about Kevontae. He's kind of fell down to earth. I mean, he did make a Pro Bowl there. But yeah, I think, you know what? I'm going to say he does. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that KaVontae Turpin kind of makes his money this week in a big spot when they need him. I trust Brett Maher. I don't think we would have said that in September, August. I feel really confident in that. And, Brian Anger is my guy going back to last year. So if I'm fairly certain, damn near confident that the special teams will figure it out and Fossil will get them going.
Brandon, you were out when I did the unveiling. This was like, the magician like pulls the cape off and we're supposed to, see the assistant like gone, but the assistant's still there. You can see like the bottom half, the legs just kind of, flailing about. So thank you for setting me up for a really poor delivery. Why do you believe the Cowboys special teams will be better than last week? Your answer cannot be just because last week was so bad. But what do you see coming down the pipe here in the wild card round?
Well, as you heard on the writer's block on the episode today that aired, we were talking about the field conditions and also the weather. I think that was a factor. I think it was more so that, and then Joey Sly. I don't think he's one of the best kickers in the league, but I mean, look what he did. He had a poor performance, and he might be on thin ice at this point after last week's game. And Brett Maher, I think he gets a pass. I think this, it was one missed extra point, so I'm not that upset about it. The Anger situation again was just the weather. It was one of those things where the ball just kind of came out a weird way. He wasn't wearing gloves, as Jess was telling. We were talking on the writer's block. And the ball just kind of moved at the last second, and I think he took his eyes off it and misplayed it. But on the bright side of that Anger situation, he didn't make it worse. He just grabbed it and fell down instead of letting the ball roll around, and maybe it's a scoop and score. So it's to me it's weather conditions, and I think FedEx Field is a garbage field anyway. So. I'm not taking too much stock in the special teams. And then Turpin, same thing. I think the ball just kind of moved at the wrong time. I think he just took his eyes off of it. I think it was more of the field conditions and the weather conditions. I think things will be back on track for the Monday night game.
Jess, do you think the Cowboys are due? Do you think KaVontae Turpin is due? Is Dorrance Armstrong due for another block? Are they due for something to finally break their way on special teams after nothing really has for a long time now?
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people don't realize about KaVontae Turpin specifically, and Aisha, she was in the comments earlier, and if she's listening, I will give her all the credit for saying this, because
so if she's not listening, you won't give her the credit though. Only if she's listening.
I'll give her the credit either way.
Okay.
But what she pointed out is KaVontae's been playing football for about a year now. You have to remember he just came out of another league straight to the NFL. He has been going and going and going. So when he was fresh, he had those 2 preseason, take it all the way home plays. The thing was, teams didn't have film on him yet. People didn't have tape on how to stop KaVontae yet. Now you're seeing a full season of people that are specifically honing in on KaVontae Turpin because they know he's a special player. They know he's the return guy that is capable of taking it back if he gets the hole to take it. Oh, there she is. If you get the hole to take it all the way back. So again, yes, I think they're due for something, and it was just very uncharacteristic how both sides, both Washington and the Cowboys, were playing in special teams. Again, we talked about that with Christy Scales on Girls Talk, Boys Talk. It was weather related. There was a wind and just a lot of factors that went into it. So I'm not going to be too harsh on special teams, but I do think they are due for something really big, and this is the week to do it.
Sturch, mob rules. I don't know if you're in your own mob. Chop Sports in many senses is like the mob of sports media in a very good way. Mob rules brings up Tampa has a grass field. This has been a thing, right? Like every now and then, like, right. You reach a football game where something is a thing, right? Like some sort of weird circumstance, the grass field. And if the Cowboys win, they'll probably have to go to Philly or San Francisco, another grass field. If they get through that game, have to go to the other, obviously another grass field. Does the grass concern you at all, Dave Sturchio?
No, it doesn't. But I was talking to a colleague about this, and I'm like, well, when I was growing up, it's like if you saw turf on any kind of field when I was growing up playing, you were like, well, those guys got money over there. You know what I mean? So it's like those guys must be rich. They're playing on turf, and that's NASA over there. Yeah. Right. But like now I'm thinking about it, like a lot of these younger kids, like the rookies and anybody who's been in the league less than like 4 years, probably played in high school where there was turf and college where there was turf. And then grass has become all of a sudden this lost art when it comes to the professional football or any kind of football. I don't think it's a thing. I think obviously, like, yes, you are slower on grass because your cleats dig into the wrong spot and you might miss a step or two. But the fact that, of all people, our favorite redhead, Jason Garrett, brought this up on the broadcast last week. And I'm like, dude, you couldn't be reaching farther to try to figure out why the Cowboys would not do well next week. So no, I don't take this into consideration at all. I don't.
I got to hand it to Jason Garrett. Like, finally, it took him the entire regular season, but finally kind of became part of the content machine. You know what I mean? Like, had something that became like a national sort of, talking point and storyline. Danny, I know you love him, so sorry, I didn't mean any indirect shots there. David Howman, one of you has faith. There's a lot of faith going around right now. George Michael would be very happy because reinforcements are on the way. It was not you, obviously, David Howman. We've gone through years. Who do you think has faith for this exact reason?
I feel like it's Chris. I feel like he's got that positive energy.
Tony, you are the only one who did not correctly guess a faith or fear tonight, at least halfway through. Chris Halling, you actually changed. You were all over the place today in my DMs, like going back and forth. I faith, fear, whatever. Why did you land on this? Is this your number one emotion right now?
I do. I think that, obviously my initial fear was Kellen Moore based because that I don't like him and I'm very scared of him as our play caller. But I think
there's a fear out there on that. Don't worry. That will get covered.
Okay.
Don't worry, Chris.
Okay. I think the biggest faith for sure and the biggest emotion is that we're getting Leighton Vander Esch, Jonathan Hankins, and Tyler Biadasz back. And that's huge, I think, for our entire team. I mean, the run game, both defensively, has looked way worse since Hankins has been out. He's a big hole. He's like a big log up in the middle. And then our offensive run game too, it struggled a lot against the Commanders. Ezekiel Elliott had 8 carries for 10 yards and Tony Pollard had 7 carries for 19 yards. I mean, having your center back, who I think has had a really underrated season, I think that'll be really helpful. I also don't really trust Anthony Barr when it comes to his coverage ability. He's been struggling a lot at that, and I think he gets fooled pretty easily. So to have Leighton Vander Esch back there, your leader on the defensive side of the ball outside of Micah, I think that's really good for the team, and I think that really will be a completely different side of the ball defensively for us on Monday. So,
Tony, I agree with Chris in general, and not to take a shot at Cowboys fans, but we have this tendency to kind of overrate and overvalue our own players. Danny talked about, I don't know what Trayvon Mullen was doing last week. Well, if you check Twitter for the last 2 weeks, why aren't they playing Trayvon Mullen? What's going on? Trayvon Mullen is getting the game, right? Just because Leighton Vander Esch, Jonathan Hankins, coming back, Tyler Biadasz, obviously, it's you're not getting 3 all pros. And again, I don't mean to diminish, or oversimplify this whole situation here, but is that too big of a leap? Is that too big of a positive spin, Tony Catalina, that these players are supposed to come back this week?
No, I don't think so. I think Leighton Vander Esch, there's been a clear, difference in the way that the run game has been played when Hankins and Leighton Vander Esch has been out. So for them to come back, I think that's only going to help the running game because honestly, it's been pretty poor. So yeah, and I honestly don't know how much that's going to factor in because I do think the cornerback position is such a problem that Tom Brady is going to be able to get the ball out quick. He's going to be able to neutralize the pass rush. So it's great that they're coming back, but I don't know if this is the game for it and this is the matchup for it. But listen, not every player is going to be a superstar. Not every player is going to be a Pro Bowler. So, but they can still have value, and I do feel that about those guys coming back.
Danny Phantom, which of these is the most important? Actually, Tyler Biadasz is the most important. So between Leighton Vander Esch and Jonathan Hankins, who is more important?
I'm going to go with Leighton. I just think, and I'm a big Hankins fan, but Leighton's been doing a really good job, attacking through the gaps. I think one of the reasons why this is a really good answer, I think, is because
it's bragging about your answer, or are you bragging about Chris's answer?
Chris's answer.
Okay, it's hard to understand. Okay.
The reason about what I'm going to say is because it's so spectacular. Is I think it's because it allows the other guys to do the things that they can do, and you don't have to dedicate so many additional resources, to make sure you secure the edge and stop in the run. So it kind of just it almost frees other guys up a little bit. That's why having both those guys back is going to be huge. So, but yeah, I mean, Hankins does a great job. I mean, he's no John Ridgway, but he does a great job clogging up the middle. And but Leighton, he just flies after everything. So it's not only will he be back, I just hope he's back to Leighton. I hope he's just not a little bit, sluggish and just still kind of ailing. So hopefully we get the good Leighton.
Brandon, Loree, is this the healthiest the Cowboys are going to have been in some time? Presuming all 3 play, when and understanding that other players have been lost for the season.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The players that are gone, you're not going to be able to get them back. Last year, they were definitely healthier going into the postseason. But I do think that, yes, I was thinking about this actually today. I said, is this the healthiest that they've been? And I agree. And I do think that Howman kind of touched on it a little bit too, is this ripple effect of how Hankins helps Van Der Esch, but Van Der Esch also helps Damone Clark, in his development. I do think that when Damone Clark lost Van Der Esch as sort of like an on-field camp counselor, it's like Van Der Esch was teaching him, the ropes, telling him what to do, kind of navigate him. And Anthony Barr is a vet. Yes, that is true. He's been in the NFL for a long time, but this is also his first year in the system. So he's also learning. So Clark's looking at him saying, oh, what do I do here? It's like, well, I really don't know what I'm doing right now. So I do think that having Van Der Esch in there helps communication across all the defensive players, not just only the linebackers, but also the safeties. Van Der Esch has been better in pass coverage this year too, which again, with the quick game, with Brady getting the ball out quick, that will also clog up space too, which I like.
Okay.
Just to back up Chris's point with the reinforcements. Keep in mind, game 1 against Tampa, no Gallup, no T.Y. Hilton.
Great point, Sturch.
So reinforcements are still on the way, considering we didn't have these guys originally.
Also, to the point you made earlier, reps, like you don't have a fresh Dak Prescott in there, all sorts of stuff, whatever. That does work both ways, though, right? Like Micah Parsons, not the supremely healthy monster he was at that point of the season, but that can be said for everybody in the NFL. Okay, Chris, I'm going to ask you to guess this because you almost went this direction. We have one of you who is fearful because of a lack of consistency with offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Chris, you have been all over Kellen Moore. Everybody, Sturch hates Kellen Moore. I don't understand why the offensive coordinator, and I know David Howman agrees with me, of the team that has been the highest scoring team in the NFL takes such heat on a weekly basis. But Chris Halling, it was not you. Who do you think said this?
Based off what I was listening to earlier today, I was listening to the writer's block. I know Jess was pretty critical about Kellen Moore, so I'm going to go with Jess on this one.
Tony, tough scene, man. Like again, you're holding us back from a perfect game. You were the one single in the 4th inning, but otherwise, this pitcher is wheeling and dealing. Jess Nevarez, you hate Kellen Moore and you want him banished from Earth.
Okay, whoa. Slow down there. I don't hate him, and I don't want him banished from Earth, no. But what I do hate is I hate the lack of consistency within the play calling that is confusing this offense. Yes, one of the top scoring offenses in the league, no doubt. But that's when they're being consistent, which has not been happening. And what you start to see is a lack of confidence and miscommunications, miscues everywhere, and that doesn't help them, especially when you have a game like you did in Washington where it was just nothing but miscommunication, and then you have 8 days to bounce back from that and go to Tampa Bay and win a playoff game. I hold issue with that. I hold a big issue with that. And I think when you are the offensive coordinator, your job is to withhold the identity of your offense, which we've heard time and time again is the run game. Where has the run been? I get Tony Pollard has been dealing with that thigh injury and you had Malik Davis for a second, but that doesn't mean you shy away from what's working. That 1-2 punch has been so inconsistent throughout the season, and I need more of it. If you are going to stick true to what works for this team, rely on your 1-2 punch, rely on the young tight end group, work with what you have, and you have a good team, but it needs to be consistent, and it drives me absolutely crazy.
Okay, so I think everybody has a thought on this. We're going to go around the whole block here to kind of get everybody's thoughts. So, a little bit quickly here. Howman, this sets up well for you. Casey says, I'll tell you why there's Kellen Moore hate. I genuinely feel our offense is successful in spite of him, not because of him. Is this true or false, David Howman?
It's absolutely false. Do we not remember Scott Linehan? I mean, the offense was absolutely unwatchable when he was there. The very first year that Kellen Moore comes in as offensive coordinator, what do the Cowboys do? They lead the league in scoring, they lead the league in yards, they lead the league in offensive DVOA. So not only were they moving the ball a lot, but they were the most efficient offense in his very first year calling plays. And this will actually be the first year when Kellen Moore has had Dak for the majority of the season where they have not finished in the top 10 in offensive DVOA. So yes, this is statistically one of his worst years, not counting the year when Dak was lost 5 games in. But also let's go back to the offseason. I mean, they took this offense apart. They got rid of Amari Cooper. They didn't bring back Cedric Wilson. They shipped out Connor Williams. They lose Tyron Smith right before the games, the first game.
Lyle Collins, just to add to your
Lyle Collins, yeah, he's gone. And sure, Terrence Steele was really great before he went down for the year, but still they were changing out so many parts on this offense. And now we're kind of like, oh, well, the offense is terrible. after spending a whole offseason complaining about it. But also, if you actually look at like their cumulative stats since Dak Prescott came back from his injury, if you're discounting the Week 18 game because absolutely nothing went right for the Cowboys in that game, and looking at the kind of plays that they were calling was very obvious that they really condensed that playbook. But from Week 7 to Week 17, the Cowboys were 4th in the league in offensive EPA per play. They were 3rd in offensive success rate. So I don't understand, looking at all that, how we come to the conclusion of, well, Kellen Moore is terrible, the offense is terrible. I understand sometimes situationally he might do things that people don't like, may not agree with. I've been there too, but I think that's pretty much the case for every offensive coordinator. They always will do something stupid at some point. And to me, it's not a reason to just completely throw him out.
Okay, so that's 2 for Kellen. I'm counting myself with Howman, 1 against, a very loud one. And Jess, Brandon Clements, you did talk about this on the writer's block. We don't have to rehash every single point, but like, are you team for or against Kellen at this point? That's kind of what this question comes down to.
I love Kellen Moore. I've liked him for years, but where it stands currently, I can't. I'm not in favor of him right now. I don't like the way the offense is playing right now. I think they're sputtering along. I think the scoring output is more of the talent that the offense has over maybe the play calls that Kellen Moore has called throughout the season. That's kind of where I stand with him currently. And what Jess was saying, they're giving up on the run and running these really basic bland plays recently. It's not a formula for success, especially in the playoffs. So for me, that's my issue with Kellen Moore. And I don't like the fact when you're not. I don't like the 3rd and 30 type throws all the time. You don't need to do that. You don't need to run it twice against the brick wall and then just throw the ball 30 yards down the field and hope and pray that it's going to work. That's my big issue with Kellen Moore right now. I'm a fan of his, but they need to do some tweaking before the Tampa Bay game, or it's going to be an early exit. I hate to say it.
Danny Phantom, Howman mentioned again, Cowboys ran 3 plays utilizing play action last week. Kind of, again, it's a little obvious that they weren't playing like their life wasn't on the line last week. They didn't play that way, at least. So it does feel, Danny, like some people are criticizing that particular operation when it should be understood the context of it all. Where do you sit here, Danny? You're a pretty reasonable person. I know that some people have some thoughts on that, but are you team for or against Kellen, considering the context associated with last week?
Well, I'm team for Kellen without question, and I think Howman makes some great points. I will say though, if all I had to go by was last week, I would hate the guy because I don't know what he was doing last week. I thought the play calling was just dreadful. But my thinking with Kellen is Kellen to me is like Dak, and people might disagree because usually Kellen's a scapegoat for the people that love Dak. But to me, I think that they're both really good at what they do. But when you have things going on, such as not being able to run the ball, or receivers, in which this I want to say to my roundtable, opponents, you guys are more right about this than I am with the separation. It's CeeDee Lamb and nobody else. So when you have those tools to work with, it makes it hard. It makes it hard for Dak. It makes it hard for Kellen. So I think Kellen Moore's a great offensive coordinator. I don't have the hate for him at all. I think to me the reason people hate him is just because they don't want to be looking at the other things going on, maybe in particular Mr. Prescott, because we all want to love Dak Prescott, but there's fault to go around, and it's not just on Kellen.
Sturch, you have been very critical of Kellen Moore for years at this point in time, in a fun, kind of, cool, comical way. I kind of agree with Danny that Kellen is a scapegoat for the people who love and prop Dak up all the time. Like it can be both of their faults. It can be, both of their brilliance that works out for the Cowboys. And people will sit here, Sturch, and be like, well, Dak has to do this. Michael Gallup isn't playing well. He just met T.Y. Hilton. Terrence Steele is out. Look at Dak and all the points he's putting up. How do we give Kellen no credit for that?
You can give Kellen credit for that, but every time we all seem to give Kellen Moore a little credit. Like if a nice concept is drawn up and you're like, wow, what a great route. 14-yard gain on a laser to CeeDee. The next play will be a bubble screen for -2 yards. And I just can't understand. I'm not going to get past that because those are drive killers, man. They're drive killers. Every time he does that, you just look at it, and I always look at my father. I'm like, is that ever going to work? Ever? Like, and just because it goes for like maybe 4 yards sometimes, you're like, oh, there it is. You know what I mean? Like, no. This is never going to work. So Kellen's inconsistency, I'll go with Jess. I'll piggyback off that. The inconsistency out of his play calling is reason number one that I'm not in on Kellen Moore. And reason number two is that if you actually look, You know, if you watch all 22 or if you watch these from the overhead view, are you seeing how many times these receivers are winding up in the same spot, or how many times they run curls, all of them? You know what I mean? Like, where is the creativity? Sometimes, of course, yes, he'll drop one in the bucket and the play will be a beautiful, brilliant looking thing. And sometimes you're going to look at him like, well, there's boy wonder. There's the genius we know he was. But for every time you do that and you say that, I feel like it's always another 2 or 3 times where I'm just like, yo, just please just get out of my locker room. Like just goodbye, you know? And I got to assume that Mike McCarthy at the same time might hear the plays in his head and say, whoa, no, we're not doing that. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be some discrepancy there. And I think it starts with Kellen Moore blurting out something. And then, you know, the realists and the guys that have been there the longest are saying that that's not going to work, Kellen.
Chris, where would you put Kellen as far as credit on your list? Like, if you had to give credit to people associated with the Cowboys for the success of the offense, I'm presuming Dak is number 1 on your list. Like where is Kellen on that list? Is it Dak and then CD and then McCarthy? Like, where, you know, do you think he's number like
low.
10?
He's pretty low. He's about as low as it can get, in my opinion. I hate Kellen Moore. Me and you have talked about this so much. I just feel like he comes in with no game plan. I feel like any game, it's just kind of like, okay, you know, like we'll try this and then it'll work for a little bit and then he'll shy away from it. Or then he'll give up on something too easily. I think like the run game and etc. I think that, you know, to piggyback off of what Sturge said, I fully agree with him. If you watch the overhead view of these plays, a lot of them are just small curl routes that are short of the first down marker, and receivers are ending up in the same area. It's like the route concept and the designs is just so awful and just weird and flawed. I think the Cowboys would be better off without Kellen Moore. I actually hope he ends up somewhere else, and I hope another team is dumb enough to try and sign him as their head coach in the offseason.
Tony, you've been sitting and kind of like listening with some intent to this. Grace us with your thoughts here.
It's never that serious. You know, it's really, it's never as bad or as, you know, as good as you think it is, right? At the end of the day,
you made up for missing your pick, Tony. Respect.
I mean, I think Kellen Moore has shown us some good things. I mean, this offense isn't great at times by accident, right? I think last year's talent was, you know, evident with Amari Cooper. This year, that the talent isn't so apparent. I think that, you know, at times you got to give credit to what he was able to do with Cooper Rush, right? I think he kept the, you know, at sometimes you had to use Cooper Rush and his strengths and keep that season in there. And I know Rush didn't turn the ball over, and that helped. But at the same time, you know, there's a little bit more freedom in Dak Prescott. You know, I'm a big Dak guy. I think he calls checks. He makes some decisions sometimes that he runs the offense a little bit how he wants to. There is blame to go around. I do think that Kellen Moore, it's, you know, play calling is a lot like being on the field itself. It's sometimes you're hot and sometimes you're cold, right? Sometimes you get into a play calling rhythm where things are working, clicking, you can't do anything wrong. And then there's sometimes like last week where it's like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, you haven't done anything right. You're running, 10 3 and outs. That's unacceptable. So, I am, for the record, team Kellen Moore. I think that he's fine. I don't think he's like, top 5 offensive play callers in the league, but I certainly don't think he should be shipped off like Chris says.
Loree, we have a tie. 4-4, 4 against. No big deal. You decide the fate of Kellen Moore here at this point in Tribal Council.
Yeah, I have to say I'm for Kellen Moore.
Let's go!
And I say that because at all of Tony Pollard's career, I've been asking to get him more involved. And he has been this season. It's got him all the way to the Pro Bowl. And I understand that a lot of that is on Tony Pollard's talent. We can all agree on that. But I brought this up yesterday that you look at the Minnesota Vikings game, that when Tony Pollard wasn't successful in the running game, they used him as a wide receiver, ended up over with 100 yards. So I think that you see this sort of flexibility with Kellen Moore. And not to mention, when you bring a guy like T.Y. Hilton in, I'm sure the offensive coordinator has to sign off on that as well, too. So I think that he's trying to find ways to grow. I do see, last season, to me, the playoffs is going to matter a lot in how I think of him moving forward. His first playoff game as an offensive coordinator didn't go so hot. How are you going to respond to that, this season? And I do think that we've seen that he's able to adjust. He's able to grow, like that was mentioned with Tony. The Cooper Rush era it seems like it's forgotten now, but he was able to make a game plan for Cooper Rush to be successful. And I think that goes a long way in his success. And, we'll see what happens in the postseason. Like I said, I think that'll dictate how I feel about him moving forward. But right now, I think him and Dak, they've been on the same page for a long time, and he was dealt a bad hand with the personnel and what he was, dealt this season with Amari Cooper being gone. So yeah, I'm all for him, at least as of right now.
I can't wait till the next 1st and 25 where he runs a draw. We're all just like, what?
That was a spirited discussion. Sucks to be on the losing end of it. I wouldn't know what that's like. Tony, can you imagine being on the losing end of the Kellen Moore discussion here tonight? I can't.
Nah, no, not me. Couldn't be me.
All right, let's get positive once again. One of you has faith in the Cowboys specifically. Tony, you were the one who said like the offense wasn't this good by accident. This wasn't your answer, to be clear. But the verbiage given to me was the Cowboys did not win 12 games by accident. Jess, you were correctly guessed a moment ago. Who do you think has faith for this exact reason?
I'm trying to remember who already had theirs.
Yeah, can you put your hands up? I've already forgotten too. If you've had yours outed. Loree, you had yours outed. Brandon, Howman, Chris. That's it. And you yourself, Jess, obviously. So we've got Danny, Sturch, and Tony left.
Oh, man. Okay. The Cowboys did not win 12 games by accident. I'm going to go with Tony.
Well, you have now joined Tony as somebody to mess this up. It was Dave Sturchio who has faith because the Cowboys did not win 12 games by accident. Sturch, you sent me like 4 of them, and I said, please just pick one. And you said, go with this one. So why was this your choice?
Because in the NFL, it's not easy to just go out there and win some games. You know what I mean? Like, ask the teams that struggled this year. They struggled poorly. The Dallas Cowboys were in a position in the last week of the season, all of a sudden, to be the number 1 seed if things fell our way. Like, that doesn't happen because they're struggling all year. I mean, like, look, the last month of the season is when you want to catch fire, right? Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen Joe Burrow do it last year. We've seen the 49ers do it this year. But sometimes you peak too early, too. Sometimes you peak too early. Sometimes you're playing your best ball, and then you get punched right in the mouth, a la the Dallas Cowboys last season. They went into the 49er game thinking, you know what, our shit don't sorry, our stuff don't stink. And they got punched right in the face. And that was it. The season was over within a blink of an eye, man. So, like, I think that the Cowboys came out there. They won another 12 games for the first time in forever. Did they have 12 wins again, right? Let's be honest. Overtime with the Jaguars, overtime with the Packers, this Washington abomination. You're looking at a team that could have won easily 15 games this season. 15. So there has to be some optimism going into the season or the postseason with this, because Tom Brady went out there, played the same amount of games as the Dallas Cowboys, and couldn't win half of them. He couldn't. So correct me if I'm wrong. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, Rashad White, 17 tight ends over there. Their offensive line got banged up. I get it. But, like, at the end of the day, this team, they won games, and it doesn't happen by accident. I'm sorry. Like, you win these games because you are a good, well-balanced football team. You don't just do this stuff by accident, man. I'm sorry.
Howman, this conversation can never be one. It becomes like a dunk on you thing. It's like, well, they're a really good team. Did they win the Super Bowl? No. You know what I mean? Like, it can be true that they were a very good team if they don't win the Super Bowl. And I think that's Sturch's point, right? Like, they might not. They probably won't. Like, odds are that they will not win the Super Bowl, but, like, they have a chance for the second year in a row, which is, and you can laugh and say it's pathetic that, like, that's a proud achievement for this franchise, but it is. Like, that's the reality. Like, the darkest part of the night is fading in the background. And to Sturch's point, I mean, sure, you can argue they could have won 15 games, whatever. They could have lost that Texans game. You can play that game both ways, Sturch, just to be clear. Yeah. You know what I mean? But they are a very good team, Howman. We have seen them win games different ways. It has not just been the brilliance of Kellen Moore on display. They won games with a strong defense. They won games with a backup quarterback. Like, they are arguably the most diverse team in the NFL when it comes to having success in multiple ways.
Yeah, you make a good point. And, the Cowboys, I mean, the Cowboys didn't win 12 games by accident, as Sturch said, but, you also don't get to the playoffs by accident. Good teams get to the playoffs. And once you get to the playoffs, you actually have to play those good teams and you have to beat them. And I think that's really the difference that I've noticed between this year's team and last year's team is their record against teams with a winning record. And, they've won more games against teams with a above 500 record this year than any other team in the NFL. That wasn't the case last year. We all remember going into that Cardinals game and thinking, like, this is the one where, and also the Cardinals ended up, really falling off shortly thereafter, and they fired their coach earlier today. But that was one of those games where it's a team with a lot of wins, having a great season. This is the time to prove themselves, and they fell flat. And It hasn't been the case this year. The kind of concerning thing is that the games where they have fallen flat have been against some teams that at the time didn't really look that great. The Jaguars weren't as great as they finished the season off being. The Packers, even though they found their mojo later on, they were not good when the Cowboys lost to them. The Commanders had given up on the season so much they turned to Sam Howell at quarterback. So it's definitely a situation of playing down to the opponent's level, and that does give me concern against arguably the worst playoff team this year being up next on the docket. But still, they've beaten good teams. They've shown that they can do that, and 12 wins in consecutive seasons for the first time in forever. You can't just ignore that.
Danny Fanta, do you trust the Cowboys more today than you did on the Tuesday of Wild Card Week a year ago?
No, I do not.
Is that independent of opponent? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it has nothing to do with the Jimmy Garoppolo conversation we were having, and this is just who they are as a team.
Who they are as a team, yeah. And there are a few factors that come in, and you guys know how I feel about the McCarthy and the way the team is prepared and the confidence that the team has. And I think there's some things that's starting to show itself. And there's some, 12 wins. You're right, 12 wins is nothing. I mean, that's good. That we know that. We're not going to debate that. But to me, I also think that 12. We want more than that, and I think that we would all say, yeah, we could win 12 games, and no one's going to be like super, jacked about that. We want something better, and we were all starting to believe that this was something better. And I think there's some things that's starting to reveal itself to where it's like, you know what? I don't know that it's any different, RJ. I'll tell you what, everyone talks about these back-to-back and, 12 wins, double digit, whatever. This is also, we could be looking at, if we get bounced on Monday night, we don't even get to the divisional round in the first 3 years with McCarthy. So, to me, there are some things going on that just make me feel unsettled. So, yeah, I don't feel so great about it. And I didn't feel that great about San Francisco either. But I think I felt a little better, if I'm being honest.
Jess, you experienced a physical evolution. I saw, like, you went from just kind of like shaking your shoulders to like kind of, squirming your mouth a little bit to then like squeezing your hands. Evolution's a great movie, by the way. People don't bring it up enough. But Jess, your thoughts about what Danny had to say. Exactly.
Danny, I love you and I respect you so much, but respectfully disagree. Mike McCarthy, I know he's not your guy, but he is the first coach that has brought this team back-to-back playoff appearances since 2006, 2007. This is the first time this team has won 12 games in 2 years in a row since 1994, 1995. I wasn't even born yet, okay? Ugh. That is not something you
it's
cannot
not a kind thing to say to some of us.
He's also the first coach to lose to Washington by 20 points, 3 times over
like,
the last.
Okay, like we don't need to like talk about the Washington loss is like such a weird aberration of a game. Like it was not their best effort. Go ahead, Jess.
But my whole point in saying that is you can't discredit everything Mike McCarthy has done for this team. This team, who was the better option? Who would have taken that 2020 season and turned it around in 2 years like Mike McCarthy has? I really don't think that there was another option at that point. And again, we were just talking about, okay, Kellen Moore deserves some credit. Sure. I think everybody deserves credit at this point to get to this point, but you can give Kellen Moore credit, but you can't give Mike McCarthy credit. I don't get that.
No, I give McCarthy credit all the time.
And it's just, again, Mike McCarthy to me has shown that at this point, it is a matter of execution on everybody's end to come back from Washington and win on Monday. It's a point of execution because we've seen, and this goes back to the inconsistency topic, we've seen spurts of greatness from every single aspect of this team, but have we seen a complete game other than the Vikings game? That's the concern going into Monday.
Tony, you're somebody who, when the Cowboys lose, you kind of wear your emotions on your sleeve in a really good way. Danny said he doesn't believe this Cowboys team, or he doesn't trust this Cowboys team more than he did at this point a year ago. Are you more confident the Cowboys will win this week, Tony, than you were that they would beat the Lions in the wild card round of the playoffs in 2014? By the way, tomorrow is the 8-year anniversary of the Dez catch. Sorry.
I think there's a lot of it. there's a lot that goes into this year's.
Why we got to bring that up?
So there's a lot that.
Go ahead, Tony. Yeah, you're on delay,
sorry.
which makes everybody chirping in a little awkward. But go ahead, Tony. The floor is yours.
Sure. There's a lot that goes into why I feel better this year than compared to 2014. I like the way this defense has looked at times, right? Even looking at last year, I was confident. I was wrong about the 49ers and how that matchup played out for us, because I was confident. I thought, last year was different. I thought that team had a type of destiny to them. But this year, this team, the makeup, what have they shown us and how they're built, I feel really good about what they can do if they put it all together. I think it's compared to 2014, yeah, like that was, it was fun, but at the same time, I like Dan Quinn. I gotta be Kellen Moore's biggest fan in this group, compared to other people in here, but ultimately, I don't know what we want from Mike McCarthy, right? I know that Danny comes at Mike McCarthy for the overconfidence thing, but like, do you want him to be Buzz Killington in there and just be like, guys, I know you're feeling yourself, I know everything's good here, but like, let's simmer down. Like, I just don't know what. I just don't know what you want him to do. Like, if I understand blaming the referees, and there's some of that kind of back and forth stuff that we are very vocal and very honest about, but other than that, like, Mike McCarthy, out of the last 2 out of the 3 years, has done an impressive work, and he's done things with Cooper Rush, and he's had challenges, and he's found ways to get over it. And you got to give a little bit of the flowers when you can.
I agree with everything you said, Tony. I mean, this season, the head coach has a little bit more grease on his hands, right? Like calluses on his hands from like, this was earned, you know what I mean? And nobody knows when it's going to end, but the nature of the job Mike McCarthy holds is that whatever happens next Monday is going to swing a lot of narratives in a powerful way. And that's just kind of what goes and comes with it. We have 2 more to get to, so we're going to be kind of quick with these. We're down to Tony and Danny. So I'm going to have, Loree, you get to pick here. You get to guess. So we have to have 2 people miss. We have 1 faith and 1 fear. So actually, to make it more difficult, instead of telling you exactly what they said, who do you think was faith and who do you think was fear between Tony Catalina and Danny Phantom?
Now you're making it harder, man. I thought you were going to do it.
That's
later.
the whole point. I mean, it's hard. You had the easy, process of elimination here. You got 2 people to choose from. So
you want me to pick one or both?
Well, you're effectively picking both.
Well,
yeah, okay, yeah. Well, I'm gonna say Tony is faith. I trust Tony to be faithful.
Tony was faithful. We're gonna end. Yeah, good line for you, Tony. Tony has faith in the Cowboys because this team has shown us that they are capable. They have the right structure and stability. Was your point? You kind of just talked about that, Tony. Do you feel like this team is maybe not battle tested, but like they've seen everything, right? Like they've seen everything that an NFL season can offer. So bring on the GOAT. Like, he's the only thing that's left.
Yeah, I mean, this team at one point in time, right? The defense was all world. The offense has looked all world. Special teams look like to be one of the better units. I have faith in Dan Quinn. I have faith in Mike McCarthy as a head coach. I think Kellen Moore has the ability to do good things for this team. So there has been, bits and pieces this season. They've gone through adversity. They talk about resiliency being their phrase of the year. Like, there is makeup of this team and things that they've shown us over the year that makes me buy into what this team can be. Now, honestly, we all know that football and NFL as a whole is, it could be gone with the win the next day, right? Like, you could feel really good walking into a 49ers wildcard game and get punched in the mouth and the season's over and you're kind of sitting there with a blank stare on your face. But this team, if they can find a way to just go and beat a sub 500 undeserving division winning team, being manned by the GOAT, right? At some point, this man is gonna die, right? This is Jason, this is Freddy. Like, at some point, the villain is gonna be taken out. So Tom Brady isn't going to be on top of this statue or this pedestal forever. Why not this year? I think that they have the structure, they have the ability, they have the talent. There are some deficiencies, but I have trust and faith that Dan Quinn is going to be able to put themselves in advantageous positions. They're not necessarily going to find themselves on island with Nashawn Wright trying to cover Chris Godwin. And I think there's going to be ways to help, and there's going to be things that they can do. And, ultimately this team has the makeup. They just have to find a way to put it all together.
Danny, we'll just kind of get to yours now, so we can tie a bow on all this. Your fear is the offensive line issues with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we do think that Tyler Biadasz is going to play on Monday night. Are you just nervous that, maybe the big bad wolf comes and this isn't the house of straw, but it's the house of twigs, right? Like, a big enough gust is going to blow this whole thing down?
Yeah, it's just for me, it's just what I've seen on tape the last few weeks, and it's certainly not just the Washington game. You know, if you throw, even though that was really dreadful as far as in the trenches, but if you throw that out, the next thing you look at is the Cowboys' offensive line getting beat by third string Titans players, and it was not fun to watch. And I'm worried because I'm just seeing them getting overpowered, and I'm seeing they're making too many. If one guy doesn't pull the right way and secure the edge, then the play is blown up. And it's just maddening to see what's happening to the running game. That they just can't. It's broke. It's genuinely broke. So and when that happens, what's left? That means Dak Prescott needs to save the day. And you know, sometimes he does. But that's a lot to put on him, and then sometimes he doesn't. And I remember the San Francisco game very vividly. And when San Francisco was shutting down a run, and then Dax he panics a little bit, and he's forced to try to do these things. The next thing you know, he's throwing a pick in his own territory, and we're in bad shape. So those are the things that concern me. If we really get overpowered in the trenches, it's going to just take away what we can do on the offensive side of the ball. So, unless Kellen Moore has some tricks up his sleeve to kind of mitigate some of these issues, I'm really concerned about the Cowboys offense, because let's face it, the defense is good, but they're going to get exposed at times, and they're going to have a battle. They cannot win the game for us. We need help from the offense, and I'm just hoping that they can show up and they can do it for us.
David Howman, Johnny Boy says that Tyron Smith has had some shaky moments at right tackle. Do you feel like that's fair?
I mean, I think it's fair, but I think it's also fair to just consider, like, he hasn't played that position since his rookie year, and he's coming off a really nasty injury with his hamstring too. So, you know, not only is he returning from that injury, but he's now having to flip everything he does. So I think he gets some grace there, but you've kind of seen him from week to week. He gets just a little bit more confident. He's looking just a little bit more like himself. So I give him some slack there.
Okay. You all made a point, a reason you have faith, the reason you have fear. Nobody asked for mine. Kind of offended. No big deal. But I'm going to offer it anyway.
RJ, real quick. Faith or fear?
Thank you so much, Sturch. I love you with all my heart and all my soul.
Got you, buddy.
So I recognize that everybody's afraid of Tom Brady. I'm afraid of Tom Brady, right? Like, I don't know how many millions of football fans have had their lives like impacted negatively because of Tom Brady. So what I'm about to rattle off is kind of a symptom of who Tom Brady is. And so like, I don't mean this to be like an RJ Ochoa tweet where it's like this fun correlation or coincidence. But I think we're all picking the Cowboys to win. Is anybody picking the Cowboys to lose this game? Anybody? Hands up. David Howman, get the hell out of here, please. Okay, we're all picking the Cowboys to win. And I understand that Tom Brady is not the big bad wolf that he's been for a long time, but like, you cannot tell me that a win over Tom Brady would not be a big thing. And it would not be a big thing for Mike McCarthy, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I recognize a bit of a shell of himself, but so I have faith in the Cowboys because I think they'll win this game, and a win over Tom Brady is a big deal. Dating all the way back to 2010. I double-checked while you were all talking. I was totally listening. Last year, the team who beat Tom Brady in the playoffs won the Super Bowl. 2 years ago, 2020, that did not exist because Tom Brady's team won the Super Bowl. In 2019, the team that beat Tom Brady in the playoffs was the Tennessee Titans. They made it to the AFC Championship game and ran into the Kansas City Chiefs. Not exactly something to be embarrassed about. In 2018, nobody beat Tom Brady's team because they won the Super Bowl. In 2017, the team that beat Tom Brady's team beat them in the Super Bowl. I know we don't like to recognize that happened, but it was the Philadelphia Eagles. In 2016, Tom Brady's team won the Super Bowl 28-3. In 2015, the team who beat Tom Brady's team in the playoffs won the Super Bowl. They beat him in the AFC Championship game. The Denver Broncos did. In 2014, Tom Brady's team won the Super Bowl. Obviously, he's very good at this. In 2013, the team who beat Tom Brady's team in the playoffs made it to the Super Bowl, the Denver Broncos. They did lose to the Seattle Seahawks, but still, in 2012, the team who beat Tom Brady's team in the playoffs won the Super Bowl 10 years ago, the Baltimore Ravens, the lights going out the Superdome. In 2011, the team who beat Tom Brady's team in the playoffs won the Super Bowl, the New York Giants, two of these teams, NFC East teams. In 2010, the team who beat Tom Brady's team in the playoffs, the New York Jets, the last time they were in the playoffs, made it to the AFC Championship game. Obviously, they did not win the Super Bowl. But my point is, beating Tom Brady is like a big deal. It is a big influx of confidence. So I know the Cowboys will have to go to Philadelphia or San Francisco or wherever the hell, but like, holy crap, if you beat Tom Brady, who else can stand in your way, Tony Catalina?
Nobody, baby, nobody.
That was the response I was looking for.
I feel like that segment was going to go like in 1976, Tom Brady. What? It's like, holy Christ. How long has this bum played?
But I agree with Aisha. Like she said, LMAO, you beat Tom Brady, you feel unbeatable. Is that not true? Like, would anybody not feel that way on Monday night or Tuesday morning if that happened? Again, fully recognizing that this Bucks team is below 500. That would be all the talk, etc. You didn't even really beat Tom Brady. Eagles fans and Giants fans would say, we beat him in the Super Bowl. Who cares? You beat Tom Brady. Who the hell is Jalen Hurts? Or definitely who the hell is Brock Purdy? Right? Like, what can you not do if you can
RJ,
beat Tom Brady, Search?
I'll tell you right now what the narrative is going to be if we beat Tom Brady. You beat 45-year-old Tom Brady. You didn't beat the other Tom Brady. You know what I mean? Like, so they're going to spin this against us. They're going to, no matter what. If we beat Tom Brady, they're going to be like, well, you know, he had like 3 hip replacements and a fake knee and all this other stuff. And he's not eating as much kale. And like, you know what I mean? Like this, it doesn't, for me, it's just, I don't know. They're going to spin it in a way where we're not going to be able to, us 9 will be able to puff our chests out like McGregor and just walk around like our crap don't stink. But like, the outsiders, I'm talking the Eagles fans and the Giants fans and those people, they're going to be like, well, you know, it was 8 and 9 Tom Brady. So it's not as big a deal.
Howman, I saw you nodding. Even though you are picking the Buccaneers to win, you agree with the sentiment that if the Cowboys are able to vanquish, you know, the Emperor here, I mean, like you are the one. You are Luke or Loree, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, and it just kind of goes back to like why I'm so scared of Tom Brady, why I think the Buccaneers are ultimately going to end up winning this game. Like, I really hope that it happens, but I don't see it because Tom Brady is Tom Brady. He's beat the Cowboys 7 times out of 7 tries. And it kind of brings me back to the Packers game earlier this year, where in that game, I actually picked the Cowboys to beat the Packers. And I kind of felt bad about it because I was like, I feel like having picked them, I'm going to jinx it for another Aaron Rodgers moment. And it's kind of the same deal here. Like, it can't happen against Aaron Rodgers, and it didn't. It can't happen against Tom Brady, even though if it does, it changes everything.
Yeah,
Chris,
Howman, you also cut LVE in the preseason. So
Chris, I know you're a little bit younger, so you don't have as many scars as some of us here. But like, if it's like, Sturch had a tweet a long time ago, a few months earlier in the season that I loved. It was like, someday all these tweets and all these jokes and everything will end. And on that day, a lot of people will have nothing to say. But like, if it's all going to end, and not that the Cowboys would win the Super Bowl on Monday, Chris, but like, wouldn't it be on a Monday night when the Cowboys wear their Navy jerseys on a grass field, like all the stupid, silly stuff that we lose sleep over? Like, wouldn't it be all of that being undone in one fell swoop?
I'm hoping on Tuesday, you know, I load onto Instagram and I see all the meme pages are quiet. You know, I'm watching First Take. Stephen A. Smith is all upset. He's not happy.
You're watching that crap,
You know?
so that's on your
I'm just hoping that at the end of the day, we do break all those curses. And I also agree too. I think that if you do beat Tom Brady, I think that the rest of the playoffs feels a lot easier from a morale standpoint. So I agree with you there.
Brandon Clements, you were nodding along. I mean, is this, again, this is not the Super Bowl, but is like in many ways you could argue this is the best, and I'm not like saying, oh, Cowboys by 50, but like this is the best kind of way you can kickstart this run.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you can kickstart the playoff run by beating the GOAT, I mean, and like Howman said, it's Brady's been 7-0 versus the Cowboys. So why not get that first L for him by means of moving on to the divisional round and then beating the Philadelphia Eagles? I think that's a great way to look at things, and I think the Cowboys, and I said on the writer's block for today's show, I think the Cowboys' ceiling, or at least their floor, I think is like the NFC Championship. So I think we can at least get there. And then depending on how things go, I think a Super Bowl run is definitely in the cards. I want to see some more consistent play calling on offense. That's kind of where I'm at. And I think if that can happen, you know, I'm not a big Kellen Moore fan at this point, but if we can get some consistent play calling, get Tony Pollard involved more, and get CeeDee Lamb involved more, and, you know, even get those tight ends and, you know, those 3 tight ends we got in there involved, I think we're good. I think the special teams, I'm not worried about it. The defense, I trust Dan Quinn to do what he needs to do against Tom Brady, to get Tom Brady off his spot, because we need to bring the pressure up the middle, get in his face, make him go off his spot, because he has a great arm still, but it's not the arm that he had back when he was throwing bombs to Randy Moss. So if you can get him off his platform just a little bit when you're pressuring him up the middle, I'm good. I think we'll take our chances against Tom Brady in that situation. And I'm really feeling good about this game. You know, I'll put a score out there. I think it'll be like a 34-31 type game. It's going to be close, but I think the Cowboys pull it out.
Danny Phantom, win over Tom Brady in the playoffs is sweet, no matter what Tom Brady team it is. True or false?
Yeah, it's sweet, but you know, here's the thing. It's a good start, but to me, I feel like it's
an amazing start.
It's a good start. No, let's not. It's like defeating a stormtrooper. Let's be real. I mean, we got
you nerd.
You got it.
Wow.
You got some. You guys can't. We can't act like all right. We got it now because they're the real teams start the following week. So yeah, it'd be great. And I mean, honestly, if we beat Tom Brady and we're not going to. Mike McCarthy's not going to be the only coach to not win the Super Bowl. That when Tom Brady doesn't, so that's not going to happen, right? So. But no, there's tougher teams that we got to deal with. It's nice. It's a good start to it, but that's all it is. I mean, because there are tougher teams that lie ahead, and this is where our worry should be. I mean, it shouldn't be Tom Brady.
Who are we not? Who are we playing Monday, Danny?
That's
who we got to worry about.
You got Google.
What are you worried about? Brock Purdy? Like, first of all, you can give Danny Phantom $1 million, and he'll come back and be like, "Well, it's not $1,000,001." So. It's like, come on.
I mean, there's
man.
a lot of taxes you got to pay on that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you win the lotto or something like that. It's not the million you think it is on paper. Brandon, you had your hand raised, and then we'll get to Jess and Loree.
I don't care. I don't care the narrative about Brock Purdy. Like he's been playing some good football. They have so much talent on that team. Last time I checked, they hit Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, and they got one of the Bosa boys on defense. That team is the most complete team in the NFC. That is the team that I can see the Cowboys losing to in the NFC Championship game. Good. That's all
right. That's enough. That's enough, Brandon. We're cool on this. We're cool. We're cool. Anyway.
No, I'm spitting facts. I'm not.
All right. Okay. So Jess, it was a long time ago that Dak Prescott told Tom Brady, "We'll see you again." Did not totally happen the way he envisioned. Great Owl City song with a similar name, that is. But like, is this not like a manifestation of like a one of those things finally happened? Like, nobody ever talks about like when Romo had his like funny tweet, the like major league scene in 2015, like, I guess we'll win the whole thing, and then they lost like every single game. But like, this literally happened. Like, this is a thing. Like, it's returning to the scene of the crime. The moment that we all kind of expected everything to crystallize, it is finally here.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that Owl City song because it's from a Disney movie called Wreck-It Ralph, and I myself love a Disney movie happy ending. Slay your dragon at Tom Brady, get your storybook ending with that, close that chapter, and then you worry about the next opponent. But beating Tom Brady and Dak manifesting this moment, I'll see you again, you knew what he was implying when he said that, and sure, it didn't happen for them when he said it, but you know as well as I do that 49ers loss last season has stayed in those players' mouth as a bad taste since it happened. They've talked about it over and over and over again throughout the duration of this season. And here's the thing. You can worry about the 49ers. You can worry about Philly when that time comes. Slay your dragon and start your storybook ending so that way these narratives are done. And again, people aren't going to be happy, right? Oh, you're Tom Brady 7-1 against the Cowboys. It doesn't matter because that means you knock Tom Brady out of the playoffs. That's shut down. You're on to the next round. That narrative is also shut down. There's so much at stake here. And I think the biggest for me is the confidence of these players and how much this can boost them going forward and give them everything they need to when those harder teams come around. You're ready to go.
Brandon, I don't have a Cowboys. Brandon, Loree, I don't have a Cowboys question for you. I have a request, and it would be: could you tell yourself, Jess, and Brandon this week's episode of the Writer's Block that you guys won the Roundtable?
Hey, listen, I like that.
Wow! Congratulations! Wow, nobody cheered. Nobody said anything. Like, I'm kind of rethinking my decision here.
Great job, RJ.
Haters.
Thank you. Brandon, you can speak for everybody. What does it feel like to win this roundtable, the playoff edition? By the way, we will have a second roundtable on Thursday night here where we will give something away thanks to our friends at Homage.
Yeah, it's definitely special. I do think that we had a great discussion with regards to talking about questions heading into the playoffs, and we've touched on a lot of topics that we discussed, but just quickly touching on what you talked about with the catapulting of, beating Tom Brady. I think it also confirms what Mike McCarthy has been talking about since he joined the team. This playoff success that he had with going on the road 3 consecutive games, making it to the Super Bowl. The players will buy in if that happens. And I think that once you have that buy-in, you see sort of like the fruits of the labor kind of come all together. That has a powerful, powerful impact. And I do think that when you say it and you preach it over and over again, it's like, all right, is he just talking? Like, are we actually going to do this? The minute that actually happens, just like when you listen to the Writer's Block, it makes you feel that much more confident in the product that you're putting out in the future, which is the divisional round, the championship game, and then eventually the Super Bowl.
Tony, how do you feel that your show did not win and that another show, an entire show, won over you and Sturch?
We know who the real winners are. Come on.
The First and 10 podcast wins a lot, so I'm not too worried.
Wow. This was
sore losers.
Go ahead, Jess.
Sore losers. It's okay. It's all right. Here's the thing.
I listen.
Here
Listen,
with Writer's Block, we support all of our BT.
You know what? And Jess,
we love
with
all of you very
Jess,
much.
with that writer's block, I just slapped my over bet on how many times you guys can say writer's block within one roundtable. So us at First and 10, we don't have to tout ourselves. We already know we're the best going on the network. So it's
can you look behind Tony?
That's true. Yeah,
it's just N10.
Sorry, I didn't have a log cabin, Danny.
I don't think that's a log cabin. That's like Danny's like in Lake Tahoe or something. Like that's a luxury cabin. I mean,
big fat head behind me.
Looks good, Danny.
Howman, Johnny Boy says that everybody wins except for you. How dare you pick the Bucks? Do you feel bad, Howman?
Yeah, no, I feel bad, but you know what? If the Cowboys win on Monday, I'm not going to care.
That's well said. Chris Halling, outside of yourself, Chris, who wore the best Navy jersey tonight?
I'm gonna have to go with Dak for sure. So Jess and Tony, they had the best.
And
jersey.
Danny had Dak too.
And Danny had Dak. I forgot because Danny seems to hate on Dak a lot. So
yeah, that's true. Wow. Well, Brandon, you have your own custom jersey, so it's a little bit more of a unique thing. Danny Phantom, what episode of the Brady Bunch did we embody tonight in your mind?
Oh, I think it was when like they overloaded the washing machine and just all the suds came out and it was just a big mess.
I really don't know if that's a real thing. Like I've seen a lot of TV in my life, but I don't have like an extensive knowledge of the Brady Bunch.
Who's getting hit in the face with a football?
Well, Howman's the one who picked the Bucks.
So he's getting hit in the face.
That's the answer.
I don't know. I would appreciate if someone could look it up before we leave. What year did the Brady Bunch end? I wonder if Tom Brady was born before the Brady Bunch ended. I'm kind of curious about this. I'll buy somebody time. Thank you, Brandon. I'm going to guess the Brady Bunch ended like in 19. Maybe I'm really far off. Maybe it ended like the early 70s. And Tom Brady was born in what? 77?
The Brady Bunch ended in 74.
Tom Brady was born in 1970. Hey, it was the Brady Bunch. We didn't even think about
77.
that. Tom Brady
born in 77. So Brady was 3. No, Brady wasn't born yet. So Brady, whatever.
Good quick math.
Too many freaking times saying Tom Brady. I'm tired of this.
Simple math. I would just like to point that out.
What was that?
Wow.
On the writer's block, we know how to do simple math. So
first of all, our podcast has numbers in it.
You didn't do a great job there, buddy.
It's really stressful. Brandon, Loree, I would like you to pick somebody to tell us what they like about the color navy. You can pick whoever you want.
I'm gonna
Remember, my Wi-Fi's bad.
Yeah.
You said that really fast for somebody whose Wi-Fi is supposedly bad, Tony.
Listen, I'm going to do Chris Halling only because he also has the Micah Parsons Navy jersey in the background, so he's doubling down. So it seems like that Navy's kind of like a good color for him.
Okay, Chris, what do you like about the color navy? Send us home.
Nice, Jess. Nice.
I love the color navy because it reminds me of America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. So that's why I love it so much. I don't know. It's a nice color to look at too. It's
what's a non-Cowboys navy thing you like?
A non-Cowboys navy.
We'll be a little more creative here.
I've always liked the color blue, so I guess I'll say it's my
favorite
color.
thing about the color navy is the color blue.
Is that it's blue. Yes, that's my. It's. What else am I supposed to say? How else do I describe navy?
You could have said the navy.
The navy. Said, okay. Yes.
Yeah. Sturch brought is that Terry Glenn? Sturch?
Terry Glenn. I just because Jess showed me her stuff over there, so I just wanted to brag about this. Terry Glenn. This was the 2006 Thanksgiving Day edition, right? Because I was
against
there for
the Bucks.
It's against the Bucks. That's why it's the Bucks. So I'm bringing this up. We beat the brakes off him. Tony Romo threw 5 touchdowns, and guess what? You're not gonna believe who signed it after. That's Mr. Jerry Jones signed my autograph here. So my boss, sort of, roundabout way.
You know, people forget that was the original Salvation Army kettle celebration.
I remember.
Yep. So, yeah. All right, Danny, give us something else about the color navy. Anything you want. Like, come on, something positive though. Let's end right.
I don't know what you're looking for, RJ, but I mean, I just think that. Don't you think that with the white pants and the trim, don't you think that combo is just one of the best uniforms in the league?
Shout out Des Bryant. It was his idea, 2017. Man, that's the thing, man.
Before I forget, Howman, you disrespected Scott Linehan. Did he not run that reverse to Des Bryant, who nobody knew was a left-handed thrower, and he threw that touchdown pass? You can't.
Everybody knew he was a left-handed thrower. You're dismissing a left-handed thrower in Kellen Moore, Sturch.
That's true too, but well, I digress.
RJ, the best thing about the color navy is that it's going to be the color the Cowboys wear when they beat the Tampa Bay Bucks on Monday.
That's the answer we were looking for. That's the roundtable, everybody. Have a good week.